Friday. We will get you set for the weekend. It might not be a Max Ball weekend, but we can at least make it a Max Ball Friday. And yesterday, GMAC, you kind of gave the warning. Oftentimes, weekends like this is when the weirdness begins. Things start to happen. I kind of feel like we had that one, it was like 3 weeks ago. It wasn't complete mayhem, but kind of towards the top of the rankings. A few things happened, a few things slid. I just don't know if there are – we talked about some of our upset picks yesterday. I just don't see as many either matchups or contrasts and styles across the board that make me feel like pure chaos is coming this weekend. There's some interesting matchups, but I just – at this point in the season, I don't see this being that weekend that we have seen in previous years where the majority of things just fall apart and all of a sudden we have no idea what things are going to look like after the following week, rivalry weekend.
Well, if you really look at it, though, like look at the top 10. I mean, how many games are really going to be competitive amongst the top 10 teams? Maybe two, right? Like 2 top 10 teams have tough games this week. It doesn't mean you can't lose, but, I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like it's a bad matchup for Notre Dame.
Yeah, usually we can look at those and find ways for the other team, and it's kind of like, I just don't know how Rutgers is doing that. I don't really see that. Sorry. Like,
why sit down on the rut?
I just don't know if Charlotte's going to make that happen. Like, do they have the firepower? Probably not, you know. Now, you go further down, I think USC Oregon can be intriguing. Obviously, I think if we're counting Vanderbilt in there, you and I talked about Kentucky Vandy. It's a little bit of a different Kentucky team over the last 3-4 weeks. I would love to sit here and tell you I think Arkansas, Texas can be really good and that it could go the other way. Yes, Arkansas has a takeover player. We think Taylor Green is incredible, but do they really get enough stops to keep that game interesting? I mean, the defense has just been bad. And remember when Bobby Petrino knew he was going to fix it by firing everybody on the staff? And I think it's gotten worse.
Well, I don't – the only way Arkansas wins that game is by having the ball last in a track meet, right?
Yep.
Forcing a mistake or two, having the ball last in a track meet, and they can win it. But I agree with you. I think Texas is probably better than people realize, but I can understand why Arkansas is a bit of a trendy dog.
Let me ask you this: What do you make of Texas right now? And I'm not talking about just against Arkansas, but kind of 1,000-foot view. Where do you look at them as maybe potential? How good they actually are today? Where can they still improve, even though it's this late in the season? Just how do you kind of view Texas at their core for sort of what they are and what you think they can be if they were to get to the postseason?
You know, they're a tough eval because you watch them and it's like, all right, I like that. Ooh, he's coming on. Okay, that guy's starting to grow a bit. And then they disappoint you. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things to like about their team and their roster, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't work all the time. I'm not sure why. You've claimed that I think you have a fair evaluation by saying, hey, they're not like the most rugged players. They're a little, you know, they're well paid. Life is comfortable. Austin's cool. You know, like, I don't know. I mean, they don't play like their hair's on fire all the time for whatever reason. I don't know why. Like when you watch, for example, and it's front of mind for me, I watch Ahmad Hardy run, the running back from Missouri. Like I watch him run, I'm like, golly, that dude runs hard. Like his life depends on every run. Seth McGowan, same way at Kentucky. A handful of guys, it's like, golly, man, those guys, their livelihood is on the line. Kejuan Lacey runs hard, you know, and I watch Texas, and it's not that Trey Wisner doesn't run hard. It's like they have a team full of guys that if they would, it's not like their life is on the line when they play. You know what I mean? Like there's, for whatever reason, just not the same urgency that you feel. And I thought I'd get it last week. Like I thought last week would be the best example of like, golly, all right, boys, got to have it. Playoff on the line. We got some urgency. We got to have it. And I didn't get it. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure why that is.
Excuse me. It's interesting that you brought up Ahmad Hardy because we had him 2 times over the last, I think, 5 weeks. And both times in meetings with him, he referenced how he still has a chip on his shoulder and still plays that way. He's like, I just think the whole SEC doubts me. I just think people look at me and say he's not an SEC running back. And I'm like, you lead the nation in rushing yards. He's just said, but he's that's me. I think people look at me and say too small, too slow. Didn't have those offers coming out of high school, so he still holds that inside of him.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's who knows how and why. Maybe it's just individual makeup. Whatever it is, it does kind of feel like it's that sort of team and that sort of makeup and those sort of individuals. It's not necessarily a knock. It's just maybe a little more style of play and just kind of where some folks are at this moment. I did want to get to you about some things that began to circulate yesterday. We'll come back to all the games coming up this weekend. We've got plenty to talk about, plenty to discuss. These reports on either the interest in Penn State in Kalen DeBoer or Kalen DeBoer in Penn State, we completely dismiss these. Do we pay any attention to these? I kind of just turned the page when I saw it yesterday. I was like, okay, this is what season it is. Like, this is where we are. We know into November, these things are going to begin to go around. Somebody's trying to do something here. It's like you and I talked about the other day about a certain report about one coach talking to another school, and we were trying to think, all right, let's read between the lines here. Who's trying to make what happen? Because obviously there's something else at play based on the events of the day. How do you view this one?
I mean, I didn't even know about it, so it's not on any credible places, is it? I mean, it's on social media, obviously, but no, I haven't heard anything about it. So what are they saying exactly? Pretend as if I'm 5 years old and just came from the moon. What are they saying?
Apparently, the Center Times Daily is reporting that Kalen is now a top target for Penn State. Which, listen, that's great. Like, we all have top targets in life. Like, I want to do Herb Street's game. Like, that's my target. But, I mean, I'm not going to get there. It's okay. Like, it was great to have targets. Does that make a report, though, that somebody has a wish list? I mean, everybody has. I'm sure when teams that are drafting 20th go into the draft, like, they want Cam Ward. Like, that's their wish list, but like, he's not going to fall to 20. So I just don't know if that's report worthy, but nonetheless, it's out there to a certain extent.
Yeah, I'm reading the article now. I mean, as someone that's relatively plugged in, this could it be a leverage play, perhaps? But I don't believe that that's likely. But people on both sides, by the way, like I've heard 10 candidates from Penn State, and these are people on the board of trustees, and Kalen's name has never come up. Now, are they worried that like they can't tell me because I'd run and tell Daddy about it? Maybe, I don't know. I don't know, but no, I would be surprised if he left for Penn State.
I think we all would.
Be very surprising.
I mean, the ultimate goal is to put yourself in the best position to win championships. And I don't think there are a lot of people that pay attention to college football. Even a lot of people who don't pay attention to college football would probably look at it and say, yeah, your better opportunity to do that is, of course, at Alabama. So when we get to the field this weekend, position group, position, individual player, style played, is there anything that you think on Sunday when you go back and watch Alabama in this game, Greg, you're going to say to yourself, listen, I'm feeling better about this because I saw that, or I feel good about the Iron Bowl because this showed up in this game. We know what this game and these type games are. What will you put on Sunday and hope to see from Alabama in a game that they most likely are going to win by a couple scores?
I hope I see the run game working beautifully. That's what I hope. I would like to see the young running backs get some run. I'd like to see a running back with a lot of juice get some run. Just watching Ahmad Hardy tape for 4 days has me looking at Alabama's backs and like, golly, man, how do they miss? You know, how do they not have a guy like Ahmad Hardy? You know what I mean? I know Ahmad Hardy's rare, but I've watched a bunch of backs this week, and it's been kind of the mindset for me is like, golly, why is it that this guy is here and not at Bama? I do think, like, the more I watch last week's game, I'm very encouraged by the progress. I felt like last week's game was a decent run game considering, how good Oklahoma's defensive front is. So from my vantage point, like, I want to see him get some young running backs some play. I want to see if some of those young running backs are decent in protection. Probably won't be, so might not want to waste my time on it. But I'd like to see those guys get a little bit of run just for the future to see if that's a guy that can be that bell cow toter, a guy that can tote the rock for I don't know, 1,200, 1,300 yards and do it in the SEC. Because the more I've watched Bama, the more I'm thinking, you know what? It's not all about the offensive line. I think the backs certainly share the blame for how inconsistent the run game has been.
I think it's totally fair. I even said it Monday night when we were talking about it on Read and React. I said there have been a couple of fronts that they've run into over the last few games. Not necessarily consistently, but maybe 1-2 a game that you'd probably like to see them either in a different play or even go the opposite direction. But as we talked about with Coach Sanderson yesterday, sometimes it's just call it, run it. Get up there and run the play. And you want to remove some of the thought process. You just need to get to something quickly, and those things take place. So there's so much that goes into an individual play in football. And there were a couple, Greg, where, Ty Simpson was spending a lot of time at the line of scrimmage last week, as he should, against those looks that Oklahoma's going to be able to throw at you. You're not going to see a ton of exactly what they did. I'm kind of with you. I want to see just that group on the same page. I want to see what they decide to go with, because we talked on Sunday and it felt like Bama went a little bit more zone. Thought that was going to be sort of the best course of action early, morphed a little bit as the game went on. Where do they kind of want to live moving forward? If they're going to have to lean on the run game, want to lean on the run game, where's that going to be? I think that's something that I'll probably try to pay attention to and take away from that film that Alabama gives us on Sunday.
Yeah. And they've been a team that spent a lot of time at the line of scrimmage all year. I would just like to see a little more call it and run it, like you said. Being perfect is great. And, hey, look, the games nowadays, the margins are thin, so wasting a play is not good. I mean, I don't blame them for playing slow and trying to take every last second off the clock to know that you're in the best play possible. I don't blame them for having that approach at all. But in a game like this, don't worry about it. Just call it and run it, and even if it's not an ideal look, let's block something that's challenging. Let's set it up something that's challenging. So I just want to see the run game go, and if that's committing to it, if that's handing it off 60 times, I also want to see Ty get back on track. I do think there have been a couple misses the last couple weeks, for whatever reason. I'm sure because some of the hits he's taken and it being the end of the year, I'm sure there's some soreness that he's dealt with, and that's affected his accuracy. I'm sure all that stuff is real. But I would like to see him have a near-perfect day as well. Kind of like he did against ULM. That was a perfect day. I want to see a near-perfect day because I can't expect him to go 17 for 17 again. But if he does, that'd be great, just to get him back on track and feeling good again.
I feel like it was perfect for him, for Keelan Russell, and for just about everybody on offense that night. It was a lot of perfection that was happening, a lot of good football. We got a lot of football to discuss today. 800-239-9569 if you want to get in. Now things have switched back a little bit to apparently there is going to be a meeting in Oxford today. Don't know if that exactly means ultimatum. There's also a reporter that has an interesting thought as to what some of the fallout could be between these discussions between Keith Carter and Lane Kiffin. We'll hit that across the course of the show today. What do we expect from the Auburn offense, without Ashton Daniels this weekend? We'll discuss that across the course of the show. Still a lot to get to, still a lot to talk about. And do not forget, you can always listen to the show online, jocksfm.com. The app is in your app store, iPhone, Android. You can download that for free. Listen on the go. Watch live on YouTube. Search Jocks945. Watch live there every day, or go back and watch across the course of the show today if you missed it. And tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jock skill.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year, the national champion of GMC dealers. You take the short drive up to Coleman, you'll be glad you did. You'll be really appreciative of the experience that you get when you go and see Andy Cole and Jonathan Yeager, and you check out the deals that they have on the lot, like a GMC Sierra 1500 SLT 4x4, $15,000 off the sticker. You can get it for just over $52,000. Deals like that to keep you come back. That's why 75% of their business is repeat customers. That's because you have a better experience when you shop at Bill Smith's. The short drive up to Coleman, you'll be glad you did. You can also shop online, have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
All right, when we come back, some interesting thoughts yesterday kind of on where this situation at Ole Miss could go next and what it might lead to. We'll discuss it right after this on Jocks. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. 800-239-9569 if you want to get in. 800-239-WJOX. Texans over the Bills last night. Bills go to 7-4. Texans now 6-5. Davis Mills 16-30, 153. Josh Allen 24-34, 253, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns last night. James Cook went for 116. So a weird one, but a nice win for the Texans last night. You thought that was a little strange the way that one went?
You think?
Some oddities inside of that one.
Did you not have Davis Mills beating Josh Allen and the 7-4 Buffalo Bills?
I think the 7-4 part, probably the most surprising of that one.
Crazy, right?
Some folks surprised last night. The Cajuns take down Arkansas State. Both those teams now go to 5-6. Both those teams 4-3 in the Sun Belt. Jalen Rayner, 25 of 43, 256, no touchdowns, no picks. Corey Rucker had 8 catches, 120 yards. The Cajuns ran for 202 on 46 carries, 4 rushing touchdowns for Louisiana Lafayette last night, and they get that win. So college football coming up tonight. I feel like this is probably it's a couple Fridays in a row. We've had a really good slate on Friday. Last week's was awesome. But Florida State, NC State, I know from a national championship perspective, Greg, like college football playoff, it's not. But we know Mike Norvell sort of fighting for his life right now. Florida State trying to finish above 500. They'll get NC State 7 o'clock on ESPN tonight. In Hawaii, we talked about it yesterday, 7-3, UNLV 8-2. 2 pretty good football teams right there that are going to kick at 9:30 on FS1. So another Friday night with pretty good ball.
Is it just me? And look, I don't like ever taking the attention away from high school football. So I am not a fan or a proponent of putting a lot of games on Friday night. High school football to me is the end all be all. That was the Mac Daddy level of football for me until I was, 19 years old. Like to me, so I don't like college football encroaching on high school football. I will never like that. But if they're going to do it, you might as well give us good games. And I do feel like they've done a pretty good job of that. The ACC has put some games on Friday night. We've seen the Big Ten now do it for a little while. You have some good G5 games. If you're going to do it, give us some good quality. And I feel like the quality's been quite good. Because back in the day, I felt like it was either Boise or Nevada with Kaepernick. Those are about the only 2 teams I saw play on Friday night, I felt like my entire college career.
Yep, it just kind of is a lot of people's foundation of football in general. And I'm with you. I don't like it, but not everybody's going to go. Not everybody has kids that are playing high school football or reasons to go attend. So if there's good football on and people are going to flip to it and consume more football, then great. But I do think the Friday night slate this year has been better than it's been the last couple seasons. And that is cool, specifically when it's just 1 or 2 games. You're not trying to jam a ton in there. I feel pretty good about it. And then obviously we know what Saturday is going to be. Some bigger games coming up this weekend that might be a little bit closer than some people think. This Missouri-Oklahoma game, Greg, is one that you and I have hit on throughout the course of the week, and I think it has a chance to be really good for a lot of reasons. This stretch play with Ahmad Hardy, Connor Tollison up front, Brett Norfleet at tight end for Missouri, going up against this front 7 for Oklahoma that just gives you so much movement, so many different looks, linebacker run through, twists, slants, walked up in gaps, people lined up in different places. That part of it alone is enough for me to sit there and be dialed into this game. I just want to know who wins. Not even the game, just that matchup. Like, can Missouri get the stretch going with Ahmad Hardy? And here's a cool part about this to remember from last week. If you didn't watch it, you weren't dialed into it. Ahmad Hardy, I think, had 3, I would say, really like explosive runs. He may have had technically 4 if you're counting like over 20. But 2 of his 3 or 4 bigger runs on the day went all the way back behind the backside tackle compared to where the play side was intended to go. So for Oklahoma, if you are playing this in an overly aggressive manner and your backside ends are crashing down and your backside linebackers are trying to chase that thing out wide, be very careful. Because Ahmad Hardy can take one that's supposed to go to the left numbers and it can hit the right numbers out the gate. And I do think first, Greg, you got to get it going front side a couple of times. You have to make them run it down initially. which they did do that earlier in the game against Mississippi State last week, and that State defense is a little aggressive, but so is Oklahoma's at times. That's an interesting part to watch about Venables' defense, in that the backside is going to be huge against that stretch play.
Yeah, I think the backside and chasing it down is enormous. Anytime you're playing against a team that's as committed to the run as Missouri will be. I think the big question is if it is Bo Pribula playing, who was upgraded to questionable last night, in a quiet adjustment to the injury report. And if he is playing, how mobile is he? Because that's what holds the backside, is the quarterback boot. And if you look at a lot of what Missouri does in the red zone, high red zone, inside the 30, a lot of it's boot action, man. Like, they boot the heck out of it. So if your quarterback is less than mobile, then what's holding that backside end and what's holding the backside linebacker off boot action? I don't know the answer to that. That's what I'm really curious in. And maybe he's not going. Maybe it's all a bit of gamesmanship and he's not going to play, but I don't know. It's weird to upgrade a guy to questionable that's not going to play. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And but that game's got a chance to be. I will say this: being there last week compared to what I saw on film the prior week did look a lot different for Missouri offensively. And it's I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think the State defense is great. I understand they've had their struggle this year. I do think they're better than the year before. But I saw a little bit of growth from Matt Zollers. And Eli Drinkwitz was very frank with us about we didn't do a great job of doing him a lot of favors in the game. We need to let him be more decisive. We need to give him a little bit less to think about. And we need to give him some of those quick intermediate throws where we can let our playmakers make plays, know who to get the ball to down the field. And I thought they did that throughout the course of the game. Alubade had the one shot down the field. I think they had another attempt to him. Didn't probably get the ball to Norfleet as much as they would have wanted to. That was one of the intermediate targets they wanted to try to use because they felt like he'd be comfortable with him. But he did show some growth last week. Now, am I going to tell you that I love a guy that age with that level of experience going up against this defense? Absolutely not. And when the game, not just the matchup of the Mizzou stretch play, when the game comes down to it, I'm with you, Greg. I think that defense overwhelms him if he is the quarterback the entire time. And so Pribula was supposed to dress last week. And the way it was –
and he didn't?
He did not. The way it was explained to us was they had a script that he was going to go out – and you've probably seen or heard similar situations to this. He had a script that he would go out and attempt to perform in warm-ups, like the early warm-ups, when your guys are out there like their T-shirts and whatever. And depending on how he felt there was going to be what his status was. And I believe, depending on that, it was determined he wasn't even going to dress. But Eli told us, he said he's about 2.5 weeks ahead of schedule on this thing. And he gave us the numbers. It was like 1.2% of displaced ankles are not fractured. His was not. And so he's ahead of schedule. They feel great about where he is collectively compared to where most people would be after this injury. But he was supposed to be the emergency quarterback last week and dress, and it was explained to us also that if he did dress, it would literally just to be if he had to get him out of a game late. He wasn't going to, like, go in and get real playing time. So if it is him, what's the mobility even look like? I
don't know.
And you want mobility against this group, for sure.
Well, you'd like to have it. And, I mean, is it in his best interest if he's completely immobile? Does he give him the best chance? I mean, I want the experience out there, but I got to have a guy that can move a little. You know what I mean?
Well, because, too, think about everything we've been talking about.
Hold that backside.
There you go. Like the bootlegs, even the little, like, sprint outs, half rolls, like to make, that backside kind of quarter of the defense have to pay attention to that. It's not just him keeping his own read. They do a lot of different stuff and to try to make you respect what can happen on the backside of those run plays. So if he can't perform those, I'm with you. It not only is it not in the team's best interest, might not be his, and that's why he was shut down last week because they just said it wouldn't be in his best interest to be out there with the way that he feels. So that's ultimately the game. I think it probably comes down to that, but still interested to see the matchup between that front seven, that stretch play, kind of how that goes and where it goes, because that's just for me. That's what I nerd out on. That one's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it should be a good game, a good chess match of of a neat offensive identity against a very aggressive defense. Like, the tough thing about playing Mizzou now is that Mizzou, and they got them last year, right? But I think that Mizzou, if I were Mizzou, I'd be concerned about my offensive line in this game. Like, how do you feel about that group?
I don't feel great about them. They're fine. They're not bad. They've done some good things. A very streaky group. And a lot of times when you're a streaky group, it is dependent on what you're playing against and how people play you. So if you're playing against a read front and you're living in zone, it might not go great for you. A penetrating front, guys take themselves out of plays. Backside, like we just talked about, come screaming flat down the line of scrimmage. So all of a sudden, keep a zone read for 20. Like, those things can be, but then sometimes, too, those aggressive fronts, you start to pin and pull them. When you go watch Arkansas last week, like, they're running wham like 4 times a game now. But they're just like, okay, if you're going to get 4 yards upfield, cool. We'll use that against you. Take you right out of the play. But I think that they have been a streaky group. The other side that I would say be careful with in this game, because we know the Oklahoma offensive line hasn't been great all year. I don't anticipate they will run the ball in this game outside of Q scramble and maybe a couple quarterback runs. But, I mean, Chris McClellan's been playing great. Zion Young, Damon Wilson out on the edge. You got Darius Smith who plays. Darius Smith, this was awesome to watch last week. When we were talking to Corey Batoon, he's like, 19's got to do a lot of stuff for us. We're like, okay, a lot. Like, what else is he going to do? He's like, well, he's like, in our jet package, he'll line up as a 3 technique and rush the passer. He rushes the passer off the edge. Like, he's kind of really an edge defender. That's where he lives. He's like, we'll back him up off the ball a little bit. And he said, there are certain packages he'll be our star. And I'm just thinking, he's 240, right? He's like, yeah. I was like, okay. He's like, but he runs with the DBs. He can run. And his versatility, kind of depending on personnel packages, let us do a lot of things. So those linebackers we know, and keep in mind, they lost Trotter early in that game last week. Trotter can get downhill. Tristan Newsom can get downhill. I don't think Oklahoma runs the football very well in this game. And I'll be interested to see if Corey Batoon wants to attack them, if he wants to bring 5, 6 on a regular basis, or even keep that many that close to the line of scrimmage, because Gracial, Sterling Webb for the last 2 weeks has been really good inside. He's a bowling ball inside. So I think what we're all saying here is maybe take the under in this one is how it's looking at the end of the day.
I don't even know what the total is, but I do feel like both defenses are pretty dang good. I've felt like that for a while. The big thing with Oklahoma is part of why they've become so great is what they've been able to do from a turnover standpoint. Like, can that be continued? Because that, I think, sometimes those things come and go and they ebb and flow, and that's why they won the last 2 games. Because their offense is not the reason why they've won the game. It's been their defense and their opportunism and getting them where they need to go on that side of the ball.
42.5. 52 at kick. That's kind of low. I don't know.
That's pretty low, dude.
That's pretty low. Maybe don't take that advice. I mean, it's not Minnesota Northwestern from the rig. 39.5.
What is that? What is that?
What do you think's going to be lower at kickoff? The temperature or the total in Minnesota Northwestern?
Oh, goodness. What time does it start?
It's an 11 a.m. kick, Big Ten Network.
Yeah, so I'm going to say the total.
You are correct, 39.5. It'll be 46 at kick, so chilly, but not mid-January.
Night game, we got a real good conversation. That's you put that game at 7 p. It might be a different animal.
Exactly. All right, so
you know what I mean?
100%. We'll get Stanford Steve's thoughts on both those totals when we come back in the 9 o'clock hour. He'll be with us then. Eric McLean's going to preview a pretty big weekend in the ACC at 8 o'clock this morning. We mentioned Lane Kiffin and kind of some things that are happening with that situation. We'll go to that in just a moment. First, Greg, tell our listeners about Canty.
Well, Canty can fix it. You know that. They're the foundation specialists in our area that have been doing a great job. And you'll understand when you bring them out to your home, they can help you out. That's what I really like about Canty is that you get a free evaluation. Bring them out to your house. They'll give you an estimate. They'll help you out. They'll be very transparent. Because right now we know in Alabama there's a million things that can affect your foundation and your home. And there's a lot of indicators that you need to get checked out, like concrete sinking, uneven or sagging floors, doors or windows not closing properly. Call Canty Foundation Specialist today for that free inspection, that free estimate, so that homeowners can know exactly what's going on under their house. Their work is backed by lifetime transferable warranty. So call them today at 205-509-3991 or go online at Canty, C-A-N-T-E-Y, Can Fix It. That's canfixit.com.
All right, when we come back, a little bit on Lane Kiffin's situation today. What all could that mean for Ole Miss past the coaching search if it was needed? That and more next on Jocks. All right, so we've gone back and forth all week on this ultimatum, potentially between Ole Miss, Keith Carter, and Lane Kiffin. There's not a guarantee that that will be a real thing. There is a – I have been assured that that is not a thing right this second. But the other thing that we know, Greg, is they will meet in Oxford, Mississippi today to just discuss things moving forward. Now, what that leads to, where that goes – not a lot of people know exactly what it's going to look like. Not exactly a lot of people know what that conversation will even consist of. If there will be any determining factors on if Lane Kiffin is the coach for the playoffs, if Lane Kiffin is the coach past this weekend, we don't know. But I did do a little due diligence yesterday on the discussion you and I had earlier in the week. And per a few people from a legal standpoint and a few people that are in the representation world, they kind of disagreed with me that he would have to be terminated for that to not happen. That there were other loopholes that they thought could be maybe sought out or enacted that potentially could take place. So maybe that whole deal is back on the table now. I'm not going to go too far with this because I don't feel like unless you've talked to Keith Carter, you really have an idea where this thing's going to go.
No.
So
I'm not surprised though. Like, I know people are upset. It's not a secret that they're upset in Oxford, Mississippi. It's also not wrong. I don't blame them for being frustrated. I don't blame them for being upset, mad, angry. I think it's all totally fair, completely and 100% reasonable to be upset. I just wonder, though, like, will you have regrets if you act on your emotions and not give yourself the best chance to win a championship? Like, that to me is the big key. Is because, I mean, look, how often are you ever going to be able to win a championship? Like, when was the last time Ole Miss had a team that was this close to the finish line and could potentially go and make a run? And it's like a tough matchup for a lot of the teams they played. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I wouldn't pick Ole Miss to win the championship amongst the teams that are sitting in front of them. I think they're a good football team. I would not pick them to win the national championship, though. But I think they could maybe, if another team made a mistake or two, it depends on the matchup, could they maybe get a couple favorable matchups and make a run? Yeah, why wouldn't they be able to do that? So I think having Lane Kiffin on the sideline for that would be in your best interest. But I think I'm in the minority there.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've changed my tone on where I would go with it or what I would do if I were Keith Carter, because I do believe that this is one of those situations where you kind of see both sides.
Yeah.
But I also think one aspect here, Greg, that people are sort of leaving out, and maybe some people are discussing incorrectly, is thinking that Ole Miss and their side is frustrated because of this all happening right now. There's a little bit of a buildup here for them as to why things are this frustrating. It's not just now.
Yes.
You and I both know this has happened fairly consistently, even some that hasn't been hyper public. I think that's where Keith Carter and some of the people who support Ole Miss athletics are a little more frustrated than some people might imagine. It's not just choosing between what's happening now. It's the fact that there's a little bit of deja vu for those folks right now in Oxford.
And they've done everything in their power to make Ole Miss the ultimate destination. And let's be real. I mean, there are bigger fish to fry here. Where are all these kids trying to go to school? From Texas and from New Jersey and from Pennsylvania and from all over the country. Where are the top two schools that are benefiting the most from out-of-state talent deciding to go to their campus and attend their university?
Wherever the biggest check is?
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, Georgia, Bama, and Ole Miss have become three remarkably popular out-of-state destinations for kids that want the ultimate college experience. Even
you're talking non-football players right now.
Yes, I'm talking students.
Gotcha. Okay.
So all of a sudden, the football program takes a dip or isn't a 10-win team every year. That affects applications. That affects the bottom line of the university. So the chancellor will be ticked off in this situation, right? I mean, there's a lot of things in play here. And it doesn't mean that whoever's next up for Ole Miss, if Lane leaves, isn't going to be great. But it does give off the impression that's like, oh, well, gosh, I mean, the football team might not be as good. I might not want to go to Ole Miss anymore. So it could affect the bottom line as far as the university is concerned. That's why there's a lot of factors here. Not only is it deja vu, but it also, I mean, this is a university issue more so than just a football. If we're talking football program in a silo by itself, then yes, it's disappointing if he leaves for sure. But we can find another great coach. We're fine. But from a university standpoint, given how popular Ole Miss has become and how that city and town and university has grown in the last 3 years since Lane Kiffin's arrival, and kind of making a very successful program, there's a lot of things that are impacted by this.
Yeah, there's a different aspect too of what the fallout could be, and what some of the shrapnel could end up looking like from an Ole Miss perspective when referencing this year and the postseason. We'll move and discuss to that. But if you're looking to move out of your home, Greg, who do you need to call?
It'd be Crocker Moving Services. They're a local company owned by Iraq War veteran Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys, and you can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed up and moved, your company headquarters moved across the country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room, these guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you've purchased and need to get to your home. So call and visit them online today for a free quote. The website's crockermovingservices.com. That's crockermovingservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Service for your next move.
All right, when we come back, what this could lead to from the Ole Miss football perspective, a situation that I'm not sure a lot of people would believe to be true. We'll discuss it right after this on Jocks. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Did you make it to Norman okay, Greg?
What's that, buddy?
Did you make it to Norman?
I did, yeah. I made it's normal. I got like a little something in my throat today, though. It's killing me. It's driving me nuts.
Yeah.
I keep coughing and
I had some killing me last night too. I was putting the kids to bed and got the notification from American canceled.
Oh no,
not delayed. And they put me on a Saturday 4:30 p.m. flight to Baton Rouge. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Probably not, but appreciate the effort there.
You love cutting it close.
That's a little more than close. Speaking of close, Chris Lowe stays close to college football. He's close to this Ole Miss situation right now. I want to get Chris on, even though we hadn't really scheduled him, to discuss a situation potentially that could take place for Ole Miss that I don't think anybody else is talking about. And, Chris, you have an article out now at On3 of if Lane Kiffin would decide to leave, how the committee could potentially hold this against the Ole Miss football team. And there was one situation that we have seen somewhat similar to this. It just didn't involve a coach. How could this end up playing out for the Ole Miss football team if they were in the college football playoff this year?
Hey, Cole, yeah, I think we're going to know more, period. We're going to know more today when Keith Carter and Lane meet about what his future is. I don't think there's any way that Ole Miss is going to be held out of the playoffs. Certainly if they beat Mississippi State next week, whether Lane's coaching the team or not. Where it could potentially be a factor is if it's close in seeding. And let's say Ole Miss is sitting there at 6 or whatever, and maybe they don't play well against Mississippi State, so other teams pass them or whatever, or play better. If Lane Kiffin's not coaching, certainly if this thing drags on until just a few days before the committee decides its honor rankings, then potentially that could impact where they're seated, and they could maybe go from a home game to a road game. I don't know if that's going to happen, but if you read the language that the CFP committee is supposed to follow, and then I talked to a former committee member, it's certainly something that they will talk about and consider.
It's crazy, and I don't blame them. I mean, they followed it with Florida State a couple of years ago without their quarterback, and you could say, well, the coach isn't playing. Yeah, but he gives you an advantage. Like, he's a net positive for your team, and it makes sense. So, what is going on behind closed doors there between the chancellor, the athletic director, and Lane Kiffin's leadership, Lane Kiffin's representation?
Yeah, well, the chancellor there is really upset that it's got to this point. And, if you step back, guys, 1,000 feet away, maybe you see both sides. I mean, Lane wants to coach this football team as long as he possibly can. It's his team. They've got to this point. It's the best team they've had maybe ever, one of the best. And he wants to keep coaching it. I don't think that's possible, though, if he's not going to give them an answer about whether he's their coach going forward. If he's not going to re-sign with Ole Miss, then if you're Ole Miss and you're looking at it from their perspective, well, can we allow this guy who may go to a rival, LSU or Florida, hang in the building for 3 months or 4 months while we're waiting to see what he's going to do? Remember, you got signing day, on the 3rd of December. You got the portal opening on the 2nd, I think, of January. So if you win a game, you're playing again on January 1st. I think that's what Ole Miss is looking at. And, hey, we got to protect ourselves. We got to protect our program. We want you to be our coach. You just got to give us an answer.
Lane Kiffin, you've covered him for a long time. You've seen him in situations somewhat similar to this. You've seen him go from job to job. And this is hypothetical, and this is just completely a guess on your part, but you do have a little bit of background here. Do you feel like he's torn? Do you feel like his mind's made up and this is just Lane being Lane? Where do you think he is from a decision standpoint today?
No, Cole. I don't think he's doing this. I don't think Lane minds chaos. I don't think Lane minds drama. I mean, we all know. We've all been around him enough to know that, right? I do think he's torn, and I think he has been. I was there to see him several weeks ago. Now, it was right before the LSU job had opened, and I could tell then that he was torn. He didn't know what he was going to do. He knew that Florida was going to be a possibility. I think when LSU opened, it just multiplied. Here are 2 primo jobs that are open. Am I ever going to be in this position again? And yet he genuinely likes living and coaching there at Ole Miss. They've given him everything. They've left him alone. They've proven, from their collective to the university, hey, we'll spend money, we'll invest. And look at what they've done the last few years. And I think, yes, torn is a good word, but again, you got to make a decision. And I think Lane has been told here in the last couple of weeks, you can't drag this out much longer. You've got to make a decision. Ole Miss has got to know. And I think, honestly, Cole, Greg, I think LSU, if you said, where's he going to go if he leaves? I sort of think LSU would be the leader in the clubhouse. And now Lane might change his mind 5 times between now and then. But I think LSU wants a decision. I don't think they're willing to wait a lot longer. In fact, I bet you they will not wait or have communicated. They're not going to wait longer than the day or Sunday after they play the Egg Bowl. And you guys are talking about travel, by the way. Thanks to your good buddy Lane Kiffin, I got to leave my family Thanksgiving night, figure out a way to get to Starkville by 11 a.m. on Black Friday. So you got any ideas how to get there quickly, Greg?
Yeah, but I don't think it's in the price range for any of us on this conversation. There's a lot of ways to get there. It's a matter of is there anything prohibitive financially? And the answer is yes. So I think it's look, here's the thing with Lane. Like, I think Lane is a highly desirable coach. I think he's a fantastic coach. I've always thought that. I think Lane likes the attention. I do. I really think he likes the attention. I think he likes to be wooed. And I do also think that if you think you have him, it doesn't mean you do. You know what I mean? So is there a scenario he stays at Ole Miss because he wants to coach this team in the playoffs so badly?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think the longer this goes, though, the less that chance becomes, Greg. I mean, I think there's a lot of people there on campus and people that, big money people on this that are tired and sort of over this, that it's gotten to this point. But they also realize, as you just stated, what a good coach he is and what he's meant. But there's sort of a threshold, and I think we're there. And I think, again, when Keith Carter, the AD there at Ole Miss, and Lane meet today, there's going to be more clarity. But listen, everybody I talked to there this week, I've written about it, I've talked about it, said that they needed an answer going into game prep week, which is really Saturday because it pushes it back with them playing on Friday. So today's Friday. They play a week from today. They need an answer, and I think that's what's going to be communicated to Lane. And, I've talked to lawyers. I've talked to other people who know a lot more about this than me. One of the alternatives, if he just won't give an answer, I guess they could put him on leave, suspend him, pay him. I don't think anybody wants it to get to that point. Nobody does, but there's got to be an answer. And I think in Lane's heart of hearts, he does not want to walk away from this football team because he understands how hard that would be for him and how that would really sort of be, in a lot of ways, his legacy. That's something that you never get away from if a coach walks away from a team. You guys know that. And I think that's sort of where he is right now, trying to figure out his way through that.
Quickly, Chris, I know you don't really have a whole lot out on this right now, but you're dialed in across college football. We referenced this a little bit earlier in the show, but we keep having people tweeting in asking us to address this Kalen DeBoer Penn State situation. How would you describe if that's even a thing right now?
Yeah, I talked to somebody pretty close to Kalen last night, and they said no. No, I know there were a couple reports yesterday that he was right at the top of the list, or somebody that they had been considered from the outset. And somebody I talked to who was close to Kalen, I have not talked to Kalen, said that was not accurate. But you know what? Things change. And you guys know that. The coaching carousel cycle, there's a lot of fluidity to it. But my information last night, talking to somebody close to him, that know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, me getting a Jordan brand deal to wear sneakers on the sidelines at the top of my list too, but that's not going to happen. I mean, it's like we all have our lists.
That's more realistic, though.
Yeah, I don't think I'll close with this. He ran to the Alabama job. That was the challenge he wanted. I don't think he's run away after 2 years.
I don't think so either. Thank you very much, Chris. Great stuff. Thanks for hopping on late notice too, bringing some clarity to that Ole Miss story.
See you guys.
So there you go. Appreciate it, Chris. Chris Lowe of On3 Sports. He's covered it. He's heard about it. He's talked to the folks there about it in Oxford. But how about that dynamic, GMAC, of the committee potentially holding that against them from a seating standpoint?
I mean, it makes sense. I mean,
to an extent, it does.
We talked about that already. Like, it's kind of like being without your starting quarterback.
But your play caller would still be there.
Yeah.
Wild times in college football. Plenty more to discuss next right here on Jocks.